Welcome to this class called But How Do You Say That? Where we're going to be talking about how to deepen the love that you receive, how to let more love in through showing up for conversations in ways where, one, you feel better and better about the conversation, but you also feel just better and better within yourself. So we're going to be talking about a little bit about like what you can actually say. But today specifically, I want to talk about how you can prepare for conversations, almost like the pre-work before you talk, that can make such a big difference. And this particular class is going to be really good for if you are a woman that feels like you work a lot, do a lot, effort a lot, and like conversations are just like so hard and you have to like try a lot, and you're really wanting to learn how to like be more and have conversations feel easier and be more in a place where you feel like you can receive love instead of having to fight for it. So if that resonates at all for you, I imagine you're going to find some really great nuggets to play with and to start to work with a bit in your life. So my name is Jacqueline Foster. I'm a relationship and fulfillment coach, and I am super, super passionate about helping women shift from feeling really stuck and unsatisfied in relationships to feeling more free, more loved, and finding that place where you can actually feel like your relationships are contributing to like filling you up and having you feel really, really good, instead of feeling like they're depleting or feeling like you're afraid of them and want to avoid them. Like, how can they actually add to your life? That's part of the work that I love to do, because we all love love, right? We want to be in love. We want to be in relationships that are fulfilling, but there's a lot of education and experience that you can get in life that teaches you otherwise, that relationship is just hard, that it doesn't add to your life, that you should avoid it. And so I want to help give you tools so that you can embrace it more and experience more and more of the love and life that you want, and have that be something that can include a partnership. So we're going to dive into some topics together. If you really enjoy what we talk about today and you want to dive in more and get support, because these things do take time and having more support makes them easier. So if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, I'm going to leave in the comments below how to schedule a discovery session for me and how to be in touch if you want more support. So what we're going to be talking about today are three specific things. I'm going to give you with three specific takeaways. So we're going to be talking about a key to feeling safe when you are in communication with other people. We're going to talk about how to express yourself to your partner so that they hear you, like how you open up that conversation so it's going to feel softer, it's going to feel easier, it's going to feel easier to have. And then we're going to talk about some really important skills you need, like skill sets to develop that can really start making communication feel easier over time, but definitely at the beginning, actually feeling more like, oh, I can do this. Like, this might not be perfect, this might take trial and error, but I can do this. So those are the three things we're going to cover today. So just so we can, for a moment, wherever you are in your day, I'm just going to invite you to drop in with me if you really want to join me for this time. So maybe just put your hand on your heart for a moment. And as you do that, like feel your hand on your heart, on your chest. Take an exhale. Maybe even taking a moment to notice sensations in your body for a moment. I'm noticing a little bit of tightness in the bottom back of my neck, a little bit of tightness along my shoulder blades too, a little bit of heaviness there. It can be really great just to notice what is actually happening in your body. So noticing that for a moment. Amazing. All right, wonderful. So yeah, and as you're listening to this recording, there's going to be a couple moments where I'm going to offer you an invitation to explore a little visual and see how it feels to do that, because there's such a big difference between understanding something intellectually and embodying it, being able to like experience it and move through it in your life. So I'm going to give you a couple opportunities to do that. And I also want to give you permission, since you're just listening to a recording, that if anything feels too intense or you're like, ooh, I don't want to do this on a video, you can just pause and not do the exercise. And also, reach out to someone for support so that you can feel like you have a safe container for you to explore some of this stuff, because this is a big deal, right? What we're going to be talking about today, the things that we're going to be sharing and discussing are a big deal, right? They're connected to matters of the heart, to receiving love. And it's a huge thing, right? It's a vulnerable thing. And so I just want to honor however you take this information in today is perfect. And just trust that you will get what you need and to take care of yourself along the way. Okay, so before we get into those 3 points that I wanted to share, I wanted to share a little analogy that might seem a little bit silly, but it's been coming to mind for me a lot this week, so I wanted to use it for the one that I share to talk about this today. So I have been living in Santa Barbara the last couple months, and I've been taking these really nice beach walks. And as I do, there are like all kinds of dogs, right? There's people and there's dogs running around and they're off leash. And what I've noticed is there are a few dogs that they'll like come over and come up and they're barking and they're wagging their tail, right? And when I see these dogs, right, like barking and wagging their tail, I'm like, that dog is wagging its tail, so it's probably happy, maybe, right? I'm not a dog trainer. I don't know a ton about dogs, so I'm going more as just a friendly dog lover and dog owner. But yeah, these dogs are wagging their tail and they're barking, right? So a part of me is like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. But then I'm also like, ugh, like it's barking. Can I put my hand out? Like, is it friendly? Is it not friendly? And so there were these points of confusion with those adorable little doggies that I didn't know if they were like okay to go in and say hi to. And it got me thinking just how much as humans can be like these puppies and these dogs, where there's a part of us that's like happy and we're like, ooh, people, opportunities for connection. And then there's also, a part of us that can come across as a bark, right? Where we're like nervous and we're not sure. And we want to remember that when we're interacting with other people, this is just a real natural part of it. And when we love someone and when we're in close relationships to someone, the intensity of that can feel even higher than with people we don't know, right? For some people, who knows, if you feel it equally, that's all good too. But sometimes something that can happen is it really can feel more intense when you love someone deeply, right? Because then there's more like, I do care, I'm showing up, and oh no, if you don't meet me, what's that going to look like? So what I want you to understand is both this desire to be loved and this apprehension that maybe we won't be loved is something that happens when we are interacting with other people. And what's also very important is this dynamic is also happening within you, right? There are parts of you, there are emotions, there are things that have been a part of your story that want to know that they are loved. And there's a part of you that feels like that might not be safe to do or okay to do because of your history, because of what you've learned. And so you want to understand that you have within you as well, personally, this dynamic of, I want to be loved, and I don't know if I will be loved here in this way that's vulnerable or important to me. And the more that you can understand that that dynamic lives not just between you and the people that you spend your time with, but it also exists within you, the more you can start to shift your relationship to it, because you know, oh my gosh, I'm not just working with this conflict that I feel with this other person in this fear. I'm also working with that within myself. And once you can identify that dynamic is there, that resistance, that struggle, you can actually start to empower yourself to have a different internal conversation. And more than an internal conversation, like a different internal embodiment, right? Like thoughts, feelings, sensations, like all of it you can start to respond to it differently, which makes like a world of a difference in your life. So, what I want you to think about for a moment is just getting real on, does this dynamic, like, can you relate to this dynamic living within you? Where you know there are parts of you that you're like, right? Like, I don't like that part. I don't want that part to show up. Like something funny to think about that I know has been really true for me, and I think this is a really, really great thing to slow down and think about is, are there times where you ask your partner, like, how do you feel? Tell me how you feel. And you want them to tell you how they feel. But if you were honest and they asked you how you felt, you might not want to answer that question. Or you might be scared for them to ask you that question and really know what the answer is. And this is a great realization to have and be honest about, right? A lot of us are really scared to just be honest about how we actually feel, right? Because there is a history for a lot of us around feelings and them being like, don't express that, don't say that, that's a no. And right, and it can make it really scary. And so we know feelings are important, but what we can start to do is we dip our toe in it by being like, well, how do you feel? And how do you feel? And trying to keep it off ourselves. And what I want to give you is the invitation to bring it back to yourself, because that is where it becomes empowering. That's where you get to see your strength, build trust within yourself, and show up for these conversations more and more, feeling like, oh my gosh, I can do this, rather than like, oh my God, like, how do I just push through this? So, okay, amazing. So I want to give you a little bit of an experiment, and then we're going to get into like the main meat of what I want to share with you. But I just want you to imagine for a moment, so you can feel this. Imagine that you're feeling a little bit irritated, and there's a person in front of you that you want to tell that you're irritated, and they don't want to hear it. They don't care. You know they don't care, but you feel irritated. I want you to notice when you think about that scenario, if you're feeling irritated and you want to tell someone and you know they're not interested. We're just going to pretend in this moment that you have enough, you know they're not interested. Notice, what are the first thoughts and feelings and sensations that come to mind? Do you want to fight harder to be heard? Do you want to curl up and disappear? Do you automatically start thinking, well, how am I going to say this without saying it? Just noticing like what your first impulse is when I say that. And then I want you to exhale for a moment and let that out. And now I want you to imagine that you are standing in front of a person and you're feeling some irritation. And the person in front of you wants to know. They deeply want to know what you feel. They care, they're with you. They're like, tell me how you feel. I want to know. And notice what thoughts and feelings and sensations come up for you when you're feeling that irritation. And that person is with you and they want to know and they care and they're interested. Amazing. So there's no wrong answers to either of these. And right? We both have had, I bet you've had experience with both of these things. And what I want to empower you to do, and this is going to lead us into that key for really building relationships and conversations that feel better and better. And that is, you want to build more and more that relationship within yourself where you feel something, a truth of whatever you're experiencing. And internally, you want to know about it. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling irritated. Oh, that's okay. I see you. Like, that is the kind of relationship that you want inside of yourself to develop. Because this is the key, right? The key for you to be able to have the conversations that you want to have those dialogues that might be tricky and hard, is building your own muscle of self-compassion. Building your own muscle of being able to be with the different emotions that you experience, to be with sadness, to be with anger, to be with all the feels, and to love them, to actually want to be with them. Right? And I know this is easier said than done, right? And this is part of the work that I love to do in the world. So if you do want more support with this, reach out, come look at my information below, because I know this is easier said than done. But what I want you to understand, the biggest takeaway I want you to get, is the importance and the vitalness of self-compassion in order to feel more self-trust, so that you can show up for conversations from that baseline more and more, and feel that more and more solid within yourself. Because this is the truth. The stronger you build your muscle of self-compassion, and the more you trust yourself to feel a wider and wider range of emotions, the more you can handle being with other people when they're experiencing those emotions. When you know what anger feels like and how to experience it and move through it, it's not going to be as concerning when someone in front of you is angry. When you know what sadness feels like and you can be with it and love it and embrace it, if someone else is in front of you and they're sad or they're grieving, you can be with it. And you know it's not an emergency. What so many of us experience, what you might be experiencing a lot when you're in relationship and emotions come up, which is so natural, is that you have a hard time feeling the feelings yourself. And so to see someone else in those can be really, really challenging, because you're like, crap, I'm not allowed to have those feelings. I don't know fully what it feels like. I don't know how you're going to respond when you have those feelings. Get me out of this situation. And so this is really where it's a building your muscle thing of self-compassion, learning the practices, learning how to do this and how to integrate it. But I really want you to have this morsel, this nugget of really bringing approval and acknowledgement to the range of emotions that you have as a human, and how it impacts your ability to show up and be in connection with other people when they're experiencing that too, right? And the more heated and the more love and the more like depth the conversation involves, often the more emotional waves and highs and lows might be involved in that you want to have that emotional resilience built up for. So think about that, like just to sort of soak that in and just be real with yourself. Like, do I have a strong muscle of self-compassion? Do I love myself through all of my emotions? Or am I more like, how do you feel? And don't ask me about how I feel, because I'm not talking about it. Because that's what you really, really want to develop. And So yes. Okay. So then how do you express with your partner so that they can hear you? So this is where building your muscle of self-compassion and emotion can be so, so helpful, because what I'm going to suggest to you next is learning how to express from how you feel. Right? This is one of the reasons I'm saying that this content is so great for you if you're a woman who struggles with doing, fixing, giving, on this, like, from this place of where there's like a lot of action and a lot of output and a lot of like, ugh, like kind of being in your masculine, like doing. What you might really struggle with is like actually having permission for when you're just being, when whatever you're experiencing is totally okay and you're just with it. And a super powerful way to do that and practice that skill is to acknowledge and to express from your feelings, right? Feelings are not doing things. Feelings are being things. They're like what lives within us in a given moment, depending on how a situation is impacting us. And when you can just allow yourself to be in that impact and honor your truth of it, oh, it can be such a tremendous relief. And it offers a point of connection to the person that you're with. It's like a softening, an opening. And it can really shift from a conversation that might feel intense and like going sort of with both guards up. It's a way for you to enter the conversation automatically starting with putting your guard down. So it's more of like an invitation to a conversation rather than preparation for attack. And obviously there's depth in what you say after you express a feeling that we won't be able to get into today. But this can be it's like a wonderful first step in the door to a new conversation. And this can very much start just within yourself. If this is really new to you, you can even just start to say to yourself, like, how do I feel? What emotions am I feeling right now? If I was just completely honest about it. When I first started doing this work and I was so much like thinking, doing, pushing, like really disconnected from my feelings, but really trying to start to do some of this, I remember a conversation with my partner in the car, and he was talking about something that he wasn't happy with. And I was listening, and I had like a lot of stuff bubbling up in me. Like there was so many emotions that I had stuffed down for a really long time. And I just felt them all bubble up in that moment. And I remember saying it to him, please stop talking. And in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to list every single feeling and emotion I can possibly think of, because like I have to do something to break this tension. It felt like an internal tsunami of emotion was like going to erupt, and I was going to say some things I was going to regret, and I was trying to learn new ways. So I was just like, okay, oh my gosh, I'm feeling irritated, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling disheartened, like feeling insecure. Just I was like listing off almost every feeling and emotion I could think of, just to start like just start getting it out. And what was interesting is I noticed as I did that, my shoulders started to relax. Something started to shift inside of me. And it was about that time that I really started to get the power of identifying my feelings. And the more work I do in this, the more passionate I get about it. And the more I see how it's like, has this compound effect of really helping me get more in touch with where I am right now, to know the truth of how I'm actually feeling so that I'm more capable of expressing it. It's such a powerful thing to get in touch with. So, and if you are a person, a woman who's more like in your mind a lot, where you're thinking things through, where you're doing, where you're problem solving, you're organizing, you're fixing, it can be so powerful to start to build this muscle of just asking yourself, how do I feel? How do I feel? And then with practice, what you can do is not just say how you feel, but actually be able to experience how you feel, which is a whole other level of being able to tell the truth and connected to that first key we were talking about of developing self-compassion. Right? Because the more approval you have, not just for saying your emotions, but actually for like being with them in a felt sense, that is where there's a massive shift from not just understanding like intellectually what a feeling is, but actually to embody the feeling. And that embodiment level of being able to connect with your feelings can really transform the way that you show up for your life and your ability to trust yourself to navigate conversations, life changes, different things that come into your life that feel new and scary. Okay, so your key there is just at the very least on an internal level, start to ask yourself, how do I feel? Right? Even when you're talking to someone, say that you're not quite ready to share how you feel, that feels really scary, but you're noticing when you're talking to someone, you're feeling a little bit of irritation, or you're feeling scared, or you're feeling sad. Even just being able to pause internally and say, like, I'm feeling a little scared, or oof, I'm feeling sad, just in your mind. That's a great place to start. Then as you build confidence and there's something that you're saying or you want to share, you could start with like, oh, there's this thing I want to say, but I feel a little bit nervous because it's new for me to say. Or I gotta be honest, I'm feeling a little irritated and I just feel like I want to be able to talk about it. And so little by little, as you get confidence, those are things you can start to be able to share more and more and help it come from an authentic place that really feels true. Okay. And the third piece of skills that you really want to develop for communication is, so I'm going to kind of add on from what we've already shared and just do a bit of a recap here now. But so what you really want to develop so that you can go into conversations feeling like I can do this, I can do this, is knowing that, right, you're going to feel fear and that's okay. It's new and it's scary and you're developing a muscle, but also feeling like, ooh, I can do this. Is one, you really want to get more and more comfortable and more educated on how to navigate the sensations that you feel in conversations, in new things, in things that bring up feelings of fear. And a big part of that we're not going to go into today, but that's really great to get educated on, is understanding your nervous system better, understanding how what you do in your life and how it impacts you has a response on the level of your nervous system, which can happen so fast before you can even think about it. And that's why even just starting to become familiar with your sensations, especially sensations that you previously might have just like ran straight through and tried to avoid, that actually can be a big part of your gold mine in slowing yourself down to learn how to be present and trust yourself present in those conversations. So we just want to understand that you really want to develop a sense of understanding what happens within your body when you feel scared, when you do new things, understanding your nervous system, and understanding that life is sensational and conversations that are new and scary are sensational and you will feel things. And your tolerance, so to speak, for those sensations, the more that increases, the easier it's going to be to navigate your feelings and your thoughts, which I'm going to talk about next. So you want to get in touch with your sensations. You also want to get in touch with your feelings, right? Your feelings are connected to your truth. I think I mentioned that a little bit before, but your feelings are connected to what's actually true for you in a given moment, which is going to help you access more of what is actually true and appropriate for you to say. When your mind is in a million places and you're just reacting impulsively, chances are you're spending more time covering up your true feelings rather than actually just acknowledging what your true feelings are. So I want to give you more and more permission to practice being honest about your feelings in a given moment, and then being willing to just say them to yourself first, like, oh gosh, I actually am feeling uncomfortable, or I'm feeling irritated, or I'm feeling sad. And just being willing to acknowledge that and honor that within yourself. And then the third thing, which is a big part of communication and the most that we think about, is like what we actually speak and the thoughts that we have and how we verbalize them. And the piece that I want to share with you here, that even though we don't have time to go fully, the conversation piece is huge, right? Because it's how you actually verbalize. And I know I'm only giving you today this idea of playing with sharing how you feel to start. But what I want you to have an idea of, just to consider, is so often when we are expressing things, like when we're saying the things that we want to say, we initially experience them as like what we don't like, right? The thing that we're sort of complaining about or judging or wishing was different. And what can be super helpful to start to consider when you're thinking about dialogues and what you want to say is getting clear on what you don't want, but as a starting point to help you determine what you do want. And very specifically, right? It's really, really helpful to start getting really specific around, well, what would I say that actually could be actionable? What could I say here that I could take action on, or I could ask someone for support around? And when you're able to get clear on that, right, and start to express that, poof, again, it's one of those things that can make such a difference in how you feel, in actually saying what you mean, and having it be aligned with how you actually feel. So, and again, I feel like all these areas, these sensations, feelings, and the words you communicate, they could all have their own, I feel like, seminar, of ways to really go into this more in depth. But I want to, just empower. I hope this is empowering to understand. I know it's like such a big topic, but when we can understand that, one, there's layers to how we communicate. And two, there's so much that you can start to empower yourself around and get to know within yourself. So that regardless of how a situation goes, regardless of how a conversation goes, you can use all of that as opportunities to feel stronger within yourself, to feel more loved, to feel more deeply rooted in who you are and in what you need, and to get better and better at saying it and expressing it, so that your opportunities to meet people and create relationships with people that actually want to build those same kind of relationships with you becomes more and more possible. All right, so I hope this is helpful. I feel like we covered a lot today in a really short time, but I thought that all of these areas are just so helpful to start to be aware of and start to consider. And like I shared in the beginning of the video, if these topics are things that you're like, oh my gosh, I so need help with this, I definitely take a look at my information below. Let's get set up for a discovery session, because these things are, what we're talking about are skill sets that take time to develop, and you can totally do it. And they can transform your relationships to your partner, your work relationships, like how you show up for your passions and the projects you work in. Like, these skills that we're talking about are so incredibly applicable to so much of how you show up in your life. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know, what was your favorite nugget? What was your favorite takeaway from this? And I look forward to sharing more next time. Sending you so much love. And until then, keep your desire alive as always. And I'll see you in the next video.